The following podcast is run by a couple of former wheel turners and one pit guy. It's meant for entertainment, not so much information, but sometimes there's some good information. The opinions expressed are just, these are the morons on the show. Not necessarily right, not necessarily wrong, not the views of any of the sponsors or anything like that. So, these guys, they're going to be talking. They might swear here and there. So if that offends you, either grow up or get a little permission from mom and dad.
All right, race fans, Brian Aho here, the one and only Bert Lehman. Welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. I had a dance recital to go to, or not a dance recital, spring concert to go to for my granddaughter last week. So,
is she a better singer than you? I hope so.
I think pretty much everybody's a better singer than I am.
I understand, right? The drunker I get, the better I think I sound. That's been many, many years. In fact, I think the last time I sang was me and Changa. I think we were over at Mike West's house, right? Or Bruce's, one of them, way back in the old TN days. And we may have had a couple adult beverages and did a little karaoke. And I remember the later it got, I'm like, I'm pretty good at this. And I'm pretty sure I'm glad nobody recorded that. I'm just saying. Changa, welcome back, filling in for Coach Krause, who he kind of got a little bug going on. I don't know. I don't know. Is he a basketball player, hockey player, right? I mean, you taking the fall. I'm not really sure. He's supposed to be, step up to the game, but welcome back. Thanks for filling in for Coach Krause. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, and I got to say I'm a little disappointed in Coach Krause. He reminds me a little of Austin Matthews tonight. He has a cold, and he can't play in an elimination game. He's kind of, he's not a hockey guy.
Yeah, I tell you, he's a coach, right? If you can't do teach, if you can't do coach, right, that's kind of where he's at. So
maybe ex-hockey guy.
Ex-hockey guy, fair enough. So I played a little high school hockey. They called me the judge. Spent so much time on the bench. Could have been a judge, just saying. But had a blast. Great times. So Puka's a hockey guy in this whole group, but he's kind of incognito. I talked to him. He said he's gonna make an appearance here. Actually, speaking of appearances, got a little Billiam garb on here. Rumor has it next week, episode 223. Guest appearance. Billiam going to be on for an exclusive interview, touching on some hot topics in the Wissota land. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. So episode number 222 brought to you by the folks over at Impact Health Sharing. So folks, if you pay for your own health care, if you're paying for health insurance and you're like, I got to pay too much, I can only go to certain doctors, I'm never sick, this is ridiculous. If you're self-employed, a business owner, you got employees, big family, farmer, whatever it may be, I might have an alternative for you. Been able to save people literally thousands of dollars a year. You can go to any network of doctors that you want. There is no particular network. You can sign up at any time. If you currently have insurance and you're like, my goodness, I'm paying too much, I want to switch, understand you can cancel insurance at any time. And you can join Impact Health Sharing at any time as well. Hit me up, text message, Facebook message, whatever. I can get you a quick quote. And if the price is something that intrigues you, once you get it, I can get you some more information. That's Impact Health Sharing. So, guys, let's start with a little fan feedback. Had some pretty good ones come in. Lots of people, just lots of props. We get a lot of people reaching out saying, man, really enjoying the show. Keep up the good work. Always great hearing that. Always great hearing from the fans. But we got a few here. We got one from Derek. And this is more of a feedback deal. And that's going to lead me into a couple questions for you boys here. So Derek said, great show, guys. Wife and I watch the show every single week. We're down in southern Minnesota. And one thing I want to let you know, Mod Country down here, keep an eye on Jim Chisholm. He's been on fire. What's he got? A couple back-to-back wins. He's been running really good. Changa, what's your thoughts on Jim Chisholm?
Well, I sent me a text here a few days ago saying, "Oh my goodness, Jim Chisholm is bolted." Of course, I watched him a little closer the last 2 nights. Just so it happened to be a couple of wins, and he had good car, and maybe he's getting back in form for a stretch run of some money races coming up.
Well, there's really only two reasons he's fast. Okay, two reasons. Number one,
I could tell.
they named him after you, right? They named him Jim after you. So, I mean, I don't know if it's technically like after you, but he's younger than you. So technically they named him after you. You're both Jim. Second of all, his last name is after mine and Puka's hometown of Chisholm. How can we not cheer for the guy, right? So him and his brother Joe, both USRA national champions. Bert, is this the guy here that could kind of sneak into the conversation and really make a viable bid for a 2024 USMTS national title run?
Well, it's definitely possible. I'll give you my generic answer is it's definitely possible. No,
Bert, color commentator, right? Bob Euchner would be proud.
No, I mean, he's definitely a contender at any race that he goes to. I was unfamiliar with him until actually I was unfamiliar with a lot of the Western and Minnesota drivers until I started doing the show. But him I was really unfamiliar with until I started watching him. Definitely a contender at every race that he goes to. As far as going for the championship, it takes consistency. My money is still on Jake Tim to win the championship in that series. But you never know what could happen.
I tell you what, as good as he looked, right? As good as he looked, last week at Mississippi Thunder Speedway's opener. Big show coming up, right? You got that Ona modified 100,000. What is that? 100,001? Is that what it is? But huge payday, like 260 modifieds. He put it to him. Some good hot rods here in Mississippi Thunder last Thursday. He put a beat down on him. Changa, could he take home $100,000 at the end of May?
I suppose it's possible, but I would have to assume that by the end of May, Jake Tim's going to have about 3,000 practice laps around that place and a big tire bill. So I'm thinking he's going to have something to say about it.
Well, plus your favorite driver of all time, Scott Bloomquist, is going to be in attendance. So he's ran 100,000 to win mod race. He did win that race, so he's kind of undefeated in those. Billy Moyer never did that. I'm just going to go ahead and point that out right now just for you. All right. Joel actually had a question here. He said, I don't know if you guys saw, so AJ Demo's 58 car, they posted a picture of it leading into the Mater. Pretty sweet looking hot rod. I kind of liked it. I thought that has a pretty good look to it. He always has good looking stuff and probably one of the favorites to win that race if it ever happens, right? But he's like, do they not have rules in Wisconsin? The deck angle looks like it's at about a 45-degree angle to the ground, a little bit of downforce. Maybe it's deceiving. Did you guys happen to see that picture? Did that look a little off to you guys?
I saw the picture and yeah, I noticed that. Well, I noticed that right away. I mean, the thing that I noticed first was, normally the quarters are straight on the bottom, but his is slanted up a little ways. And the whole back of the deck and quarter, it looks like it's jacked up. But if you look at the tires seem off. So I don't know, maybe there's something underneath the car that isn't adjusted the way it would be for the race. I don't know.
We're gonna have to ask Billiam about that next week on the show. See if that's something maybe he caught. I'm not really sure. But I tell you what, I mean, if they're not going to tech it, if they're not going to do anything about it, if it is off, it's a lot of downforce. Changa, little advantage, big advantage on a track like Menominee.
Oh goodness, I don't know about that. Depends what the track surface is like, I suppose. But I'd be willing to bet if we could teach Billiam how to use a protractor, there's about 10 degrees of angle there, and that's probably not legal.
So that's a good question from Joel. I think he's onto something. I hadn't really noticed that until he mentioned it. But Yeah, I guess it is what it is. So we have another question here from Jeremy. Speaking of Chonga's favorite driver, Scott Bloomquist. Mod dominance, right? He's basically won everything mod race he's been in, right? Could Scott Bloomquist win he ain't won a feature, right? In 3 years. Could he come back and win his first feature in a 3-year period of time? Could it be in a modified at Mississippi Thunder at the end of May?
All right. Are there other cars there?
One or two.
One or two.
Nobody good on the list. Nobody good on the list.
Absolutely zero chance. None whatsoever. Not a prayer with that field of cars.
All right. That was just sense a bold prediction coming here, maybe on that one. Bert.
Well, that's about as bold as Bert.
Right. Bert, the voodoo child, Scott Bloomquist. Any chance at all that he wins the A main and takes home over $100,000?
I have to agree that there is zero chance that he wins that race.
So there you heard it. Bert says Team Zero has a chance. Zero chance. Okay, my bad. All right, now let's go. We got a pretty good question here. I guess our number one question of the week, and this brought to you by Brad Parsons Soil and Ag Solutions. Now, I know people out western Minnesota, the Dakotas, getting crops into the ground, and I know that there's a few patrons of the show that have reached out and got some product. They're actually going to be using some of their product this year. But what are you looking to do? You're looking to get more, higher yields. You're looking to make more money. Well, what's going to make that possible? Having the right stuff in your spray packages. I don't know shit about this stuff. Brad does, though. And if you're a race fan, right, if you're in farming and you're looking to make more money, you owe it to yourself to give him a call, at least get some information. His number, 320-219-3542. That's Brad Parsons, Soil and Ag Solutions. So our number one question of the week, this one comes from Rick. He said, with you guys talking a lot about street stock racing on the show over the past couple of years, I kind of started to take a little interest in watching street stocks. Typically a late model guy, but you guys are right. They put on some of the best racing in Wissota. Now, I'm starting to keep track of the point standings, and I'm starting to keep track of the contenders for a national championship. The Browers off to a slow start. Is it too early to worry about the Browers?
I wouldn't.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Bert. I wouldn't worry about them at all at this point. I mean, what they raced on this weekend wasn't a typical dry slick or even midsummer racetrack. It was early season bugs getting worked out maybe, and a track that was really hard to pass on. We got 2 or 3 shows, and Braden's gone forward in every one of them. Colton seems to be backpedaling just a bit, but I'm sure they work together and they get them both going pretty good here.
Bert?
Well, I have to agree. I mean, look at the calendar. What day is it? What month is it? On the calendar?
It is April.
It is still early and plenty of time to get going and have a great season.
Yeah, I think you guys are right. I mean, over the last few years, there's been little to no racing in the entire month of April. I mean, it's been weather last year. There was snow on the ground till the middle of May, right? I kind of look at it as maybe they're going to have a little edge. Some of the other contenders not really racing yet, and maybe they're getting the bugs worked out. It took me, and I raced for several national championships. It always took me a few nights to kind of get in a rhythm. Well, they're doing that right now, and some of the drivers they're going to race against, right, they haven't hit the track yet. So while they're still trying to get their rust knocked off, those guys could be a well-oiled machine, and look for the 34s to start parking it in victory lane soon. His second question on this, Rob Petroff doubled up this past weekend. Good weekend for him out in Sheridan, Wyoming. Montana racer out there, and he's been strong. He had a hell of a second half of the season last year, bunch of rain early. Could a Montana driver take home the WISSOTA Street Stock national title?
Well, that's going to depend on how many shows he's able to get in. Because obviously, I mean, I know they only take the top number of shows, but the more times you race, the more chances you have to better your finishes and stuff. So, he's going to have to. I would think he's going to have to get in a lot of races to contend.
All right. So, Bert, I agree with everything you said there. That is all factual stuff. Now I want your opinion. Okay, your opinion. Is Rob Petroff in the final couple weeks of the WISSOTA season going to be in the conversation to take home that natty?
Sure. Yes.
All right. You heard it here first, Changa. You think a Montana guy? You think a guy can maybe go out there and take home a natty?
Well, remind me where he finished last year.
Boy, he was in the top 5. I think we're all doing the show on our phone. I think he just hit 30 shows, maybe right at the end last year, but they rained out, I mean, a ton early in the year last year. And he said I talked to him, he said, feeling a little extra motivated this year. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, your thoughts? I think we're all on the phone. Bert, you're on your phone, right?
Yes. I can go to my computer. My computer's 10 feet away from me.
Yeah, look at last year's points in the street. Where did Petroff finish last year? Now keep an eye. Jeremy Castro was up in the mix, but I think he got a late model, and he's running a little bit of street stock stuff. So, Craver, and Castro, 2 of the top contenders, they're not going to be running a lot of street stock stuff. It could be Petroff's. I mean, he could be licking his chops out there. The question I have, right, is will the car count deal bite him? That's the $1 million question. Will he have an opportunity to get some 112-point shows, or are they all going to be 110s and 111s? He might have to do a little bit of traveling early in the year to kind of maybe try to get a couple of them shows, but he's got a pretty darn good hot rod. So while Bert's checking that out, you can check out some of them races. I know that I think Petroff's dad, actually live streams. I know Electric City out there, some of them, they actually have streaming. It's on, I believe, Speed Sport. So kind of fun to watch some of them races out west. Bert, where did Petroff finish?
He was 7th, 146 points out of first.
Okay. So he was 7th, and he just at the very end, I think he hit 30, like right at the very end. So with that said, Changa, can he be in the mix? Or is it going to be a Brower 1-2 runaway?
I think he's going to be able to win some races. I think hit the nail on the head with her. The car count's going to be enough, and will he be willing to travel enough? What's Justin Vogel going to do? We don't know. We haven't seen him, haven't heard a darn word about him. I'd like to think if Vogel's out of the picture, he's got a little less competition out there. I'd like to think he can make some noise and at least be in the mix.
And I think Tucker Peterson is in a late model this year as well. So that's another guy that was in the hunt last year that is going to be out. Castro's not going to be chasing it. Maria Brooksick could go and pile on a bunch of wins. So street stock race is always extremely interesting. That's probably going to be one of the most fun ones to watch in 2024. So let's jump into the top moments and stories of the week. Brought to you, speaking of Montana, right? Good friend of mine out in Sydney, Montana, Nick Hoff, Hard Charger Performance Specialties. He does more than just engines. He does a lot of stuff. Only dyno service out there within several 100-mile radius where you can schedule dyno time. It doesn't matter if you have a street stock, a mod, a late model. He builds engines for anything. He's been doing it for decades. Over 20 years of experience building engines. Changa, we had a Hard Charger engine in one of our modifieds. It performed well. We won some races with it. It was very good. If you're a crate guy out west, he's the guy, WISSOTA crate guy. He's the engine repairer. So get a hold of Nick. Hard Charger Performance Specialties at 406-478-4437. So our top 5 moments. Number 5, no need to worry. As Bert's favorite player of all time said, RELAX. Relax.
I was just gonna say that.
Great minds think alike. RTJ dominates the Northeast at Georgetown and Port Royal, despite having a few winless weeks there where we were kind of questioning, hey, is he slumping? Is he testing? What is he doing? RTJ didn't miss a beat. What's your thoughts on racing action this past week out there in the Northeast? RTJ the man. Is there anybody close? What are you thinking on those races out there?
Well, I think there's a couple of drivers that are still kind of close, but RTJ definitely made a statement that he hasn't lost his form, and he's still the man to beat this season in the Lucas Oil Series. Jonathan Davenport had some wins in some other series leading up to it, so you kind of thought maybe he was regaining some of his form, and but RTJ said, "No, it's me."
Yeah, he was absolutely bolted, and we'll touch a little bit on the Lucas Oil stuff. But any thoughts specifically, Changa, on RTJ and his performance out east?
Well, I think it was pretty apparent. You get on them half-mile tracks with a little bit of food up top, he's the guy to beat. I don't know. Overall, I think Devin Moran and Marlar have been really good, and Davenport, never count that guy out. But I think RTJ is kind of doing what he did at the beginning of last year, just kind of have a little cold spell and then hit the ground running once we get to some warm weather.
Yeah, I tell you what, he is the guy to beat, and he probably has a little extra motivation after, in his mind, getting robbed of a Lucas Oil Championship last year. Number 4, there's a new name to keep an eye on in the sprint car world. Corey Day, 18, I believe he's 18 years old. Flat out wheelman. He's got multiple wins. He's 3rd in season points for the High Limit Series, and he's leading the weekly point series. Also jumped in a late model, guys, this past week. Jumped in a late model, an asphalt late model at Hickory. He won in that too, right? Was that Junior's car? Was that a Junior Motorsports deal?
I don't know.
I think it was. So Corey Day has been absolutely unreal. 18 years old. He won at Riverside this past weekend. Your guys' thoughts on that race at Riverside? It was last Tuesday in the high limit sprint cars.
Well, I mean, we've talked a lot about how the high limit series, has split the sprint car world up a little bit. But I think this is one of the good things about the high limit series is that it's giving some drivers that maybe wouldn't have had a chance in the World of Outlaws a chance to show what they can do and, showcase themselves and possibly build a bigger career for themselves. So I know I've watched a few high limit races and, he's been running in the front and it's like, who is this guy? So
he's been on the chip. So that race at Riverside, multiple rollovers, one left the building, literally ripped the fence down. I mean, we hear track series is right. Hey, we're all about safety. We're all about safety, right? I've seen people at multiple different races get literally disqualified because they didn't have driver's gloves on, right? And then you go to this track, and that catch fence wouldn't have stopped a beach ball. I'm pretty confident. I mean, your thoughts on a racetrack, running sprint cars especially. I mean, we call them tumble buggies. They're always rolling over. Your thoughts on running a high limit race? I think the World of Outlaws are going there later in the year as well. Should they even be racing at a track like that with a catch fence is basically non-existent?
I think it's very dangerous to be racing at a track with a catch fence like that. I can't remember who posted it, but I read a post on Facebook and they said that, after they saw the catch fence, he said, I wouldn't let my family anywhere near, getting close to the track near that fence because that's not going to stop anything. And I know I was at a track in Wisconsin once and they had IRA sprint cars there. And well, they also had a Dirt King show there. But the fencing, they had the cables that ran across. I mean, I was on the back stretch. I don't know what it was like in front of the grandstand, but I was on the back stretch. And the fencing was, they had posts, they had the cables run around to try to keep the cars in, but the actual fencing was plastic. And and so, I'm in the middle of the backstretch, and I wouldn't, whenever the sprint cars came around, I kind of just backed off because I didn't want to be anywhere near that fence because it wasn't going to stop anything. If we preach about, like you said, we preach about safety, but then they run, these high profile series at tracks where the safety necessarily isn't there. That's one reason why Shawano Speedway doesn't have sprint car races at its track, is because they don't have any catch fence in the corners or on the backstretch. Only
they don't have any fans there though either, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
There's no fans in those areas.
Right. Right.
So
one thing,
they have fencing in front of the grandstand.
Right. It makes you appreciate tracks that go the extra mile. I get it. Shit's expensive. Costs a lot of money, but tell you what, be big lawsuits and racetracks shut down if something did happen. So you got to look at it. That kind of makes the guy want to give a little extra tip of the cap to, say, tracks like Mississippi Thunder. They recognize a problem with their wall opening, which we've been talking about for a couple of years, where like somebody's going to die, right? And they heard enough grief over it, and they're racers too. And they looked at it and they said, "Yeah, we got to get rid of this," right? They eliminated it, trying to make the place safer. So it certainly makes you appreciate that. Changa, any closing thoughts on the high limit action, Corey Day, Riverside Speedway, or any of the above?
God, I don't know. I mean, that fence deal, it just blows my mind. I mean, that the first guy tears a big hole in it. Second guy decides to go play in the parking lot. I don't know. Maybe it's safer to race in the parking lot, probably. But, I guess in my entire life, the worst fence I ever saw was probably 30-ish years ago in Proctor. I mean, that old fence back there was scary to look at. And I remember a silver 1000 one year. I'm sitting right off of 4, and I believe it was Scott Harchie. I think he was a Bemidji guy. He had a bad rollover, and he was coming straight at my face, and he hit that catch fence, and I thought I was a dead man. And, that old rickety thing with rusty old cables, it caught him and sprung him right back out onto the racetrack. And I can't imagine how bad a fence has to be to have a 1,200-pound sprint car do what it did do.
Right. Well, and I don't think they really had cables on that one, right? They just had a couple. So you can kind of have a rickety fence, and the cables are definitely going to help. Now, obviously, you want both, but Cedar Lake has a really, really nice fence situation all the way around their track. I mean, it's a premier event around, or a premier track around. So, that's the one thing for tracks to look at. Look at that safety stuff, because all it takes is one time, you're going to be in trouble. But again, we'll get back to it. Corey Day, the man right now in the high limit series. Keep an eye on that 18-year-old rock star. Number 3, is there a changing of the guard? The young guns are starting to shine in dirt racing, especially on a local level. Specifically, third generation, 13-year-old and defending USRA late model national champion, Cade Nelson, part of Mullet Nation, right? He's got the hockey flow going there, right? So he's from Herman. You got a Hermantown guy. You got to have the flow, right? But he doubled up this past weekend, winning features both at Mississippi Thunder Speedway, Cedar Lake Speedway, and I watched that Mississippi Thunder. We watched that together, Changa, and holy shit! I mean, that boy got some balls. He's starting to kind of bring it on the high side there. He's kind of getting after it. Kind of fun to watch. By the way, happy birthday, Cade, May 6th. He's turning 14 years old. You got to be honest, don't like him. Not a fan, right? Reason is I'm literally 4 times his freaking age. Bert, how old are you? You're older than me. Bert, how old are you?
I am 53.
So what is 52 divided by 13? Bert, you're 4 times. You're over 4 times as old as this kid, right? He's out there winning races, kind of putting some pretty sweet moves on in the beginning of that race. and you're over 4 times his age. I don't like it. Jealous. I wasn't that fast when I was 13 years old. Kind of pisses me off. But as a Nelson fan, grew up watching Billy Nelson, of course, Daryl Nelson. Now all of us fans up in northern Minnesota, the Twin Ports, all of that, we have another generation of Nelson. Pretty excited about it. Did either of you watch either one of those USRA late model races that Cade Nelson won?
I did not.
I watched both of them.
Okay, I did not see the Mississippi Thunder one, but I did see the Cedar Lake one. Pretty
good race up there with him and Matthew Larson. So another legacy driver, third generation. Of course, his dad, the B1 bomber. Lap traffic kind of helped him a little bit there. Navigated it pretty well. What's your thoughts there, Bert, on that race?
Yeah, traffic probably helped him a little bit. He was able to take the lead. I think with like 2 or 3 laps to go. And it was a good race. So, I mean, one thing with Cedar Lake and
Bert left the building. I don't know what he's got. Wisconsin, technology in Wisconsin. It just is what it is. So he'll come back in a minute. Mississippi Thunder. I'll let him touch on Cedar Lake. Your thoughts on Cade there, Changa?
Well, I tell you what, I got home and I looked down my race pass. I wasn't even expecting him to be there necessarily, being as though he probably had school in the morning. So I turned it on live and I'm like, starting 6th. All right. Took him about, I don't know, a lap and a half to get to the lead. And, he appears to be driving the car more confidently up top and on the cushion. And he looks like a confident race car driver. He looks hungry. But, the biggest takeaway I got from the kid is he keeps the car clean. He doesn't tear it up. He's not getting into someone all the time. And I tell you what, we've both raced in our teenage years and we tore up a whole bunch of crap. And that kid, he does a good job of keeping it clean.
Yeah, he does. He's very disciplined. He's been around it for a long time. He saw his dad's one of the best ever in our area for sure. And he's been able to watch him growing up, but definitely a talented driver. Now, with that said, who are some other young gun drivers that you're pretty excited, and specifically there's a lot of young drivers, but let's think back to legacy, right? The people that we grew up watching, right? We grew up watching Billy Nelson, Daryl Nelson. So having that third generation's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about it. Who are a few other legacy young gun drivers that you're excited to see?
Well, I think top of the list would have to be Blake Adams. I mean, it seems like he's same type of deal, hungry, wanting to try to go out and compete for a national championship. He's a lot of fun to watch drive. He reminds you more and more of his dad every time he gets in the car,
Yeah, and I mean, you want to talk about a pedigree, right? I mean, of course, his grandpa, Tim McMahon, a former Wissota late model national champion, Dave Adams, his storied career, Hall of Famer, engine builder, multiple championships in the 40, and then Kevin Buzzy Adams, I mean, the human highlight reel, one of the best ever. Super excited to see Blake Adams. Another one that sticks out to me, Caden Blazer. I think he's 15 years old, I think. His dad, of course, Todd Blazer, I remember him at a Wissota 100 in a modified. I think he was on the podium. I don't think he won, but he was right up front. I remember watching him. I'm like, man, this guy's pretty good. And then you didn't really hear the Blazer name for many years. And out of nowhere, here comes Caden Blazer. A couple years back, I think he was like 13 when he started. This kid can flat out wheel a race car too. He's going to be fun to watch in that modified. He actually multiple wins last year, and going to be super fun to watch him progress. Tucker Peterson, another guy jumping into a late model, right? He had a big year last year in Wissota Street. His dad, Joey Peterson, one of the most talented drivers out in Grand Forks. Anybody else that comes to mind as far as legacy drivers that you're excited about?
Well, I guess up in our neck of the woods, all of the legacy drivers are getting, a little older, so they're not all kids. But I guess the one I like to cheer for is Chaston Finkbone, just because I was a big fan of Chad and raced against him, and I know his dad's been around the racetrack for a long time, so he's one I like to cheer for.
Yeah, and there's a bunch. There's a lot of second generation drivers out there. The third generation is making me feel old. So Cade, great job this past weekend, but holy shit, dude, you're making me feel old. Not sure how I feel about that, but keep up the good work. Number 2, grab your popcorn. Grab your popcorn. Edge of the seat, race of the week. I would have to say we're going to go modified. Could have been the super stocks, but 2 races that were high energy, high octane, a lot of action, battle for the lead. Mike Anderson holding off the aforementioned Kevin Buzzy Adams in an absolute exciting race at the Rice Lake Speedway opener. Your thoughts on that one?
Why, anytime you get Buzzy in chase mode on a heavy track with a big curb on it, it's a joy to watch, and it was really hard to pass. But I tell you what, Buzzy, he was doing kind of the slingshot high-low move in 1 and 2 and just railing it around the top of 3 and 4. And, it was really, really hard to put, 3-4 good corners together as aggressive as that curb was. But I tell you what, I mean, it was exciting. And at no point did I really doubt that Buzzy was going to win that race. And until I was in disbelief when the checkered flag came out. And I tell you what, if you'd have been able to find a way to win that, it would have been hands down the race of the week for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? They say fear equals respect. I don't know if it's a fear thing or just a respect thing, but Mike Anderson, excellent career, but him and Buzzy Adams have had a lot of races against each other. Buzzy very easily could have thrown a haymaker. Like, he got inside of him one time, could have right-reared him, did not. Maybe it's because Mike Anderson's a little tougher than he is. I'm not sure. But those 2 raced against each other really, really good. Fun to watch. The super stock race there was really good as well. Kurt Myers, multi-time national champ, got out front, but holy shit. Simon Wallstrom is freaking fast, hey. He was coming. He was there and just kind of could not quite navigate the cushion, but I think he had the faster hot rod. That 38 car is going to win some races. So, Bert, let's go back. We talked about Cade Nelson. You watched the race at Mississippi Thunder. I'll let you kind of chime in. Your thoughts on him at Mississippi Thunder, and then I have another question in relation to that.
No, I watched the one at Cedar Lake.
Oh, Cedar Lake, my bad. We talked about Mississippi. Yeah, Cedar Lake.
Yeah, no, I mean, he took the lead with like 2 or 3 laps to go, and he looked very smooth out there for a 13-year-old kid. Yeah, I mean, I'm, like you said, 4 times older than he is, and he's really good. But anyway, I kind of got a kick out of him in Victory Lane. I'm assuming that was his dad by the getting him out of the car, and
the one and only legendary Hermantown Hammer, Daryl.
Yeah.
Yes, that was. Yep.
And while he was waiting, he kind of seemed like he was getting impatient with how long it was taking Cade to get out of the car. I thought that was kind of funny. But I don't know if you watched Cade's interview afterwards, and he got a little bit emotional out there, and he said that he wanted to get that win for his dad. So I mean that was kind of a touching scene also.
Yeah, his dad been battling cancer. He's trying to think he's still, I don't know if treatment's done or if he's still going through treatment. Changa might know better than us, but that's a scary deal. So we're always, obviously we're pulling for Daryl in that. Cancer is one of those things that sucks ass for sure, but definitely an emotional time. That family's gone through a lot over the last year. His mom got injured in a freak accident at the shop there at the house, and then dad come down with cancer. And so, that was pretty tight-knit racing family, and they've been through a lot. So that was probably a pretty special one to him. And keep in mind, his dad is a guy that once he gets back out rolling again, he's racing. So he's not always there with them, when they're traveling a bit. So it's kind of fun to win. In fact, they're bringing the USRA late models up to Proctor and Superior a few times this year, specifically, in my opinion, for Cade Nelson and all the Nelson fans. Changa, how good of an idea, just as an overall racing, the legacy and all that, is it for them to bring that class up to those tracks because Cade Nelson can race in it?
Well, first off, just wanted to show I'm representing the 44 race team. Got to get myself a Cade shirt here pretty quick. I did hear a rumor that Daryl's maybe a month out potentially through a mutual friend, but that was just speculating. I think I think Proctor and Superior added in some races, especially for Proctor. I mean, Daryl doesn't go there much anymore, and it's a way to draw in the couple hundred more fans that are represent the Nelson clan. And Superior Daryl's there all the time, but I think some of them might be just trying to give the kid a little boost or a little help in the national points, having some races at home or in a couple more races to be able to hit.
Absolutely. So let's jump into our top moment of the week. And Bert, I should ask you this. So we talked a little bit about Buzzy Adams, Mike Anderson. We talked about the Super Stock race. Was there anything that you wanted to touch on in the mod or Super Stock feature at the Rice Lake Speedway from this past week?
I didn't see the Super Stock feature, but I did watch the mod feature, and that was a very good race. I'm glad that I watched that. I kept waiting for Buzzy to make the pass for the lead, but he just couldn't do it. And he tried high, he tried low, and it was just a fun race to watch. But what I was going to say before I got cut off by a window salesperson trying to call me. One thing that, Rice Lake had in common, Cedar Lake had in common, and, I was at the races in Shawano, and the track was the same there. There's a lot of moisture in the track. I know a lot of people were upset with all the rain and stuff that we've been getting lately, but when you get a lot of rain, but you're able to get the races, it stops in time for you to get the races in, it usually makes for a pretty good track. Nice and tacky and fast and fun racing.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little narrow at Rice Lake, but it was exciting. It was exciting. Nobody can deny the fact that a few of them races, the pure stocks came down to the wire. The speed stocks was the last lap deal. Blake was there in the Midwest mod. All the races were exciting races. So I was pretty happy with that at Rice Lake. Cedar Lake might have been the best track I've seen in a while at Cedar. I thought it was pretty darn good. And that leads us to our top moment of the week, brought to you by our friends up in Ashland, Wisconsin, Fastlane Motorsports and Powder Coating. Chris and the gang, of course, the proud sponsor of the #1 series in all of Wissota racing, the Northland Superstock Series. They do custom powder coating, fabricating. They build the Galloper chassis. They sell any type of race part you need. They can ship. They service a lot of different racetracks as a parts vendor there. Just a great group of people up in Ashland. Want to thank them guys, Fastlane Motorsports and Powder Coating. Reach out to them for all your racing needs. So the #1 moment, kind of a homer deal, but it's our show. We don't give a shit. We can do that, right? Northern late model driver makes the trip to Cedar Lake and takes home the hardware. And I'm going to be honest with you. This is not something in the last 30 years that happens all that often. Yeah, Daryl Nelson, because that's basically a home track to him. But other than that, you do not typically see Hibbing cars, up northern Minnesota cars going to Cedar Lake in a late model and taking home the win and bringing home that hardware. Kevin Burdick actually stealing one, right? Taking advantage of a caution there to kind of close the gap. But great race between him and Jake Red Jet Ski, and got him in lap traffic. The Dirty 30 takes home the win. Your guys' thoughts on a great late model feature at the Cedar Lake Speedway?
Go ahead.
Okay, my thoughts are I didn't get to watch the thing on Dirt Race Central. I was actually watching it on Kevin Burdick's wife's feed on Facebook, and he was probably close to a straightaway behind, running in second, and Radetzky was gone when the yellow come out, and on her stream, she seemed mad. She was upset that, oh God, we got to have a restart here, and that I'm thinking to myself, come on now, we're playing this game to win. We got a chance now. And I tell you what, that track was really wide. You could drive it all over the place. And Kevin kind of, I guess you'd call it somewhat of a slider, and Radetzky crossed him over, and then Kevin kind of did the same thing again and was able to hold him off. And boy, that was a lot of fun. I can't, maybe, I don't know. I think last time I can remember from up here, other than like you say, Daryl, would maybe been Harry Hansen won one there many years ago.
I think Harry, and I think didn't Danny McMahon back in the day, I think he won a Wissota Race of Champions there, but I think at the 100. But I mean, you think back to some of our better drivers that have come down there. I don't think we've had really any success there in the late models with our northern guys. So for Kevin Burdick
do you
to go
call
there and
Brady
take
Smith?
one home is big. Yeah, Brady was a national driver, but Brady, I mean,
Right.
Brady was he's a Wisconsin guy, not all the way up north by the Iron Range. He
He'd
wasn't
be the
from there.
closest thing.
Yeah, well, Brady won. He won a shit ton of races everywhere. He was a hell of a wheelman. But great job to Kevin Burdick, and he's won some big races there. He's won. They had that 5,000 to win Superstock feature. He won that a couple years ago. So it's fun to see him park in victory lane. And I'm telling you what, them late models up in Hibbing, they're honestly no joke. I mean, you look last year, they had 4 big specials. They had Challenge Series shows and whatnot. And the fastest guy at all of those was Kyle Peterlin, and he gave Burdick fits. So the Hibbing cars, the late models, I don't think there's quite the disparity as there was back, you think, late 80s through the 90s. The Cedar Lake guys were like 3 steps above everybody else. I don't think it's quite that way anymore. What do you think?
I personally, think you're right on there. I mean, we didn't have a prayer to even win at our home tracks when them guys came up here for invites, and I think like you said, Kyle kind of dominated up here in a lot of the big money races, and Burdick, beat up on the boys at Superior, won the points with Dorr and everybody there every week, and we've seen Massengill have some good runs, and our guys have competed pretty well in some Challenge Series stuff. So, yeah, it's kind of a wide open playing field nowadays.
For sure. So, Bert, your thoughts on that race? I know you watched that late model feature.
Yeah, it was a good race. I mean, Radetzky definitely had that race won, if that caution doesn't come out. But, many a driver have lost a race because the caution came out. And but once the race restarted, I mean, Burdick did what he had to do to win. I mean, he was slicing and he was dicing, and did, like I said, did what he had to do to get the win. So it's always nice to see a driver that's not a regular win at a track that they're, against the locals. So it just reminds people that, this is a tough sport, and anybody can win on any given day.
Yeah, I agree with you, except when the out-of-towners come take the money from my home tracks, because I think that's bullshit, right? When our guys go somewhere else and win, that's super cool. The other way around sucks. So, with that said, let's jump into our closing thoughts from this past week's events, anything that maybe we haven't touched on, brought to you by our friends over in Hancock, Minnesota, Turbine Chassis by Flat Out Performance. Of course, Jeff Krause has a turbine sitting there alongside his affordable, so they got a couple different chassis, won a lot of races in that. I actually got to run his turbine. Lots of wins in the turbine name. That chassis has been around for years, but new owners here over the past few years. Jeff Flotten, Ryan Flotten, of course, going to be running the house car and the modified. Great group of people down there. If you're looking for any chassis, right? They do everything from street stocks, super stocks, B mods, modifieds, you name it. Get a hold of the folks at Turbine Chassis by Flat Out Performance. So let's start with some regional stuff here this past week. Bert, you're the only one of us that actually went physically to a race here this past weekend. What's going on? What happened here this past week in eastern Wisconsin? What stuck out regionally, locally for you?
Well, I went to Shawano Speedway for their weekly show, and the track was much better than it was opening night. There wasn't any dust until very late in the features, once the track started to dry out a little bit. But, we had a lot of rain later in the week leading up to the races on Saturday. So Mother Nature helped with the track conditions a little bit, but racing was pretty good. There are only 12 late models, which was a little bit disappointing. But Brett Swedberg won the late model feature, and something happened that you don't see every day. Nick Avalink was running fourth in the race. I didn't see the beginning of it, so I don't know if there was a reason he spun out, but it looked like he spun out all by himself coming out of corner 2. And then he drove down into the infield. Caution never came out. He just pulled into the pits and the race continued on without him.
So Changa, a couple years ago, we were grading drivers and all that. Anvelink's winning everything over there. Bert gives him a C plus. It's like the fucking guy don't lose. What are you talking about? C plus? Like, what are you talking? What are you gonna give him now when he spins out an F minus? Like, what? I don't. What are you doing? I mean, yeah, you don't see that often. Nick Anvelink, a guy. I mean, everybody has one of those nights. It just is what it is. But pretty confident in saying that he's probably going to rebound and he'll shake that one off.
And I do have one other story I just want to bring up. I just want to commend Dan Machonsky in the IMCA stock car feature. A caution came out and track officials ruled that Jerry Walensky spun, and the officials ruled the caution on Walensky. And after they over the receiver, they lined up the cars. Machonsky pulled down to the inside on the front stretch, talked to the IMCA rep, and then I knew exactly what he was doing. And then the rep radioed up to the tower, and Machonsky took the blame for the crash, and he went to the back, and Walensky got a spot back.
Wow. You don't see that often.
No.
I can tell you that.
No.
I can tell you that much for sure. So yeah, tip of the cap for, I guess, sportsmanship there. Changa would be pissed. If I ever did that shit, he would have like not been happy. He would have made me load all the shit up by myself, right?
100%. You go there to win.
So let me ask you this: what stuck out to you from the regional races? So here's some of the regional stuff that happened this past weekend, and you can just say if there's anything we haven't touched on. So there was Cedar Lake, of course, race, Rice Lake race, Mississippi Thunder, they had their race. We talked a little bit about Cade. And then out in the western part of Wausoda land, Sheridan, Wyoming had a doubleheader, and Electric City Speedway out in Montana. They had night one of the Montana Roundup got in, but the rest of the weekend rained out. What else stuck out to you from this past weekend's regional/local events?
I guess we didn't really touch on the modified feature at Cedar Lake at all. So everybody else rains out, and it just so happens you got a couple of the top US MTS guys showing up at Cedar Lake to race, and the top two guys finished first and second in that race, and Dan Ebert led it for quite some time, and I think Tim had a better car, but he was unable to get by him, and then I don't know what happened. They go into 3 and 4, and Ebert changed his line one time, and Tim blew by him, and he was gone.
Yeah, and that's something right there. I mean, if you have a guy, if you're racing at that caliber, and you just bobbled one time, they're gonna make you pay. That's just usually how it is. So Ebert, a rare mistake, a little bit of a mishap there. I don't know if he was lap traffic kind of prejudging there, but Jake Tim parking in victory lane in the 49. Super stock action. Dexton Cook back on track, right? Slow start to the season, little sketchy, but 100% is going to be in the conversation for a national championship. 1 down, 29 to go for the 78K. Your thoughts on the super stocks at Cedar Lake?
Another one there where for the longest time, I thought he had a car maybe good enough to win, but I didn't think he'd be able to pass anybody, just be able to make the pass. And he got it. The same thing. He got a yellow, and he made a move. And once he got the lead, he was gone. He drove away from the boys, and I was questioning whether to be able to even get by him. So
late models there. We talked a little bit about that, Bert. Pat Dorr, right? Double One Express, storied career. I think he's got 872 championships at Cedar Lake, somewhere in that vicinity. Anyway, not even cracking the top 5. He's been kind of on the struggle bus. Opening night, he got second, had a shot to win. Ever since then, he's just kind of been a guy. Challenge Series coming up this weekend. 3 nights of Challenge Series for Wausoda Challenge Series opening up. He's the reigning champ. Concerned? Are you concerned with the slow start from the 11 not really looking all that good? Or do you think could he be a guy to beat here next weekend in Challenge Series action?
Well, it's definitely possible he could be no. No, I am not concerned at all about Pat Dorr. I mean, he has with his experience and his success, I'm not worried at all. When the when the money's on the line, he'll be there. And it usually when you say he's on the struggle bus, that's usually when he breaks out and really goes on a tear.
Yeah, that's true enough. We haven't brought out the who's hot and who's not yet. I don't know that any of those late model guys want us putting them on a non-hot list, so we'll just kind of hold off on that until after the first week of the Challenge Series. Rice Lake Speedway, we talked about the modifieds. We talked about Kurt Myers and the supers. Midwest Mods, we talked about Blake Adams, but we did not talk about the guy that won, another young gun guy, 17-year-old Landon Rant. I think he had a couple wins last year. Him and his brother, both good, really good drivers. Going to be fun to watch them kind of develop into their own. So a lot of young guns really running good over this past weekend. Bert, I have Tonga here a few minutes ago while you so rudely left us. In your area, right? I mean, you think legacy, right? I mean, you got Nick Anvelink, right? His dad, Terry Anvelink, one of the best drivers. Is there any third generation, second generation, third generation young guys? I'm talking 18, 17, 16, teenagers, right? Cade Nelson's 13 years old and getting it done. In your neck of the woods, is there a specific young gun over there you're excited about?
Not in the late model division, but in some other division. I mean, I just for an example, I just talked about Dan Machonsky. Dan Machonsky is actually a third generation driver, and his son is racing in the IMCA stock car division also. And I want to say his son is 16 or 17, somewhere in that range. So he's a driver that I'm excited to see how he progresses. He raced a sport mod last year, and he looked good in it, but he looks better in the IMCA stock car than he did in the sport mod. So and actually he might be younger than what I just said he was. So I'm excited to see how he progresses up through the ranks.
Keep an eye on them young guns over there. Keep us in the loop. Kind of let us know who we should be watching. Sheridan, Wyoming, we talked about Petroff doubling up. Dean Larson went out there in the Mod 4 double up. But one thing to keep an eye on out west, Sheridan, Wyoming, June 27th, 28th, 29th, they have the Midwest Mod Summer Showdown. $10,000 to win in the Wissota Midwest Mods. I think it's 7,500 for second. So I mean, it breaks down really, really nicely. The winners this past weekend, Mario. Oh boy, I think it was Mario Bayer. I think it was, and Darren Hoff were your winners out there. Going to be interesting to see if a local guy takes home the win. Tony Liker, I don't know what happened. He got fourth on night one. He's human, evidently. I didn't think he ever finished off the podium ever, but he got fourth. I don't know if he maybe got put to the back and had to come back to the front. Not sure. That was interesting, but Midwest Mod drivers, mark that down on your calendar. You don't get to race for that kind of money very often, so that's one that you definitely want to support if you get a chance. Electric City Speedway, here's a name for you. So Casey Stephenson won the Supers, but in the Midwest Mods, Tyler Leach. Yes, younger brother, Mike Leach. Okay, dad owns Longhorn Chassis along with Steve Arpin. So the Leach family, 15-year-old driver out there getting it done in the Midwest Mods. So that Leach name, Mike Leach, kind of bounces back and forth from Montana to down to North Carolina. I see he's been running some stuff down there. Those kids are pretty darn good drivers, and rumor has it they're not really hurting for cars, right? They have a little bit of backing behind them, so they should win plenty of races. Late model action this past weekend, guys. So we talked about the Lucas Oil stuff. We talked about, of course, RTJ was kind of the story. In Lucas Oil dirt late model racing, anything else come to mind that maybe we haven't touched on? Anything else stick out? Any storylines from this past weekend that we should be keeping an eye on?
Well, one thing I wrote down was Kyle Larson at Georgetown. He brought out the caution, to go to the pits because he wanted to change a tire. And the Lucas Oil official said that the tire wasn't flat. So they did not allow him to change a tire. And what the announcers were saying was that Larson's crew was lobbying that it was low on pressure, that, it was, there's a leak or something, but Lucas would not let him change that tire.
So they made the wrong call on hardness, essentially, is what they did. Wanted to change a compound, and they must have a rule that you can bring out the yellow, but you better have a flat if you're going to do it. Okay, yeah. Interesting. Yep. I didn't catch that. Tonga, how about you? Anything stick out to you in the Lucas action?
Well, I guess Hudson O'Neal there with his own car and a new body and everything. Car looks great. He had a little bit of speed, qualified well, but he looks like he's going through the learning curve of a new chassis and, life figuring it out with himself and his own crew.
Let me ask you guys this. You can each give an answer if you want. Reigning Lucas Oil champion, right? Right now, he's on the outside looking in. He is in 5th place. Remember, the final 4 goes into that little championship battle, the final 7 races of the year. He went from being, I think he was even leading at one point, if not, he was in 2nd. I think he was 2nd after Speed Weeks. And now he's slipped back to 3rd, to 4th, to 5th, right? And he's got Dalton Wilson, he's got Jimmy Owens, he's got Garrett Albertson, who had a pair of 3rd place finishes this weekend, nipping on his heels. Is there a legitimate chance that Hudson O'Neal goes from being the champion to not even being in the final 4 at the end of the year?
Well, I know earlier in the year, I said I had a bold after he left Rocket, I had the bold prediction that he would still make the top 4. But I will say right now, he will not make the top 4 because it's going to be RTJ, Moran, Davenport, and Marlar.
Okay. I smell a bold prediction. You might want to save that for a later part of the show. Changa, is Hudson O'Neal going to make the final 4, or is this season pretty much a wash?
Well, I don't know if you call it a wash. I mean, he might win some races once he gets his program on track, but I don't think it's very likely he makes the top 4. Like he said, I think RTJ is, better right at this point in time, and Marlar's better. The 49's better, and there's probably a few others.
The house cars suck. They're terrible.
Well,
They're terrible.
I was just going to say, it hasn't been good for the Rocket house car either. I mean, one of the races.
Longhorn.
What's that?
Or the Longhorn.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. Well, regarding the Longhorn, I think Bishop should concentrate on late model racing and not worry about dabbling in sprint car racing. But that's another story.
He's racing tomorrow night, right? It's Tuesday. We're doing the show tomorrow night. Jacksonville's debut in the World of Outlaws.
But regarding the Rocket house car, I can't remember which race it was, but T-Mac's former car owners, their car finished ahead of the Rocket 1 car in that race. So, they got to go back to the drawing board and try to. And T-Mac usually runs good on big half-mile tracks. So
I expected more from him out there for sure. I would agree. Anything that you want to touch on, Changa, or on to the next one?
Let's go on to the next one.
Hunt the Front late models this past week, and they had a 1 show out at Smoky Mountain. The Reaper Ryan Dustin getting it done in his Infinity by Wells, kind of making a little switch there, making it official. Dale McDowell 2nd, Big Sexy Brandon Overton 3rd. Points right now, Overton's leading. What stuck out to you guys from the Hunt the Front race over there?
Go ahead.
To be honest, not too much stuck out to me. Oh, well, didn't Bloomquist win his heat race? And then in the feature, he's done before one lap is complete.
He fucked me. I think Changa called him. I do. I think Changa called him because, well, maybe not Changa because he's not necessarily in the bold predictions. Probably Kraus. I don't know. That's probably why he's not here. He probably couldn't look. Coach Kraus probably couldn't look me straight in the eyes after the bullshit that he pulled here, right? My guess, I'm just speculating. I don't know, but rumor has it that Bloomquist wins his heat. He starts outside row 2 in a feature. I made a bold prediction last week. He finishes top 5 at Smoky Mountain. I think Coach Krause called him, maybe offered something up, a bribe. I'm not really sure, right? I mean, we know that he's in cahoots with Soda doing shit. He's probably doing stuff here. And he literally drives right off the end of the freaking racetrack on lap 1. Goes from, did he do that on accident? Was it on purpose because I picked him to finish on the top 5? I don't know. I mean, you guys decide. I think, I don't know. Something doesn't smell right to me. I don't know. I just don't see him doing that. I figured he probably would have won that race if Coach didn't call him. I'm just saying. All right. So hunt the front action. There was another race, Mars Late Model Series opener this past weekend at Peoria. My boy Dave Delcia keeps telling me, Peoria looks shitty track. That track was awesome. That was a really good race. So Dave, buck up, little camper. We're going to take the 83 down there, take home some money. We're going to have to do that in the street stock. So once we get that engine in, we might make a trip there because that place looks really fun. What stuck out to you from the Mars race? That was kind of an interesting one.
Yeah, well, we talk a lot about the different rules for cautions, whether it's at fault caution or if you stop on the track. Well, early in the race, the car got completely sideways coming out of 4 and would have spun out, but he got hit by 3 other cars, which straightened him out. So he gets a spot back while 5 cars spin behind him.
I just love that rule. It's the best rule ever. I wish they would have had it when we raced. I think it would have been great. We would have had to make more than 10 front bumpers and right rear Nerf bars and stuff, though. I can tell you that. So, yeah, definitely. That was a good. I don't know. I like that place. I got to get down there. That's kind of another little one of those Illinois bull rings that looks super fun. Brian Shirley probably wins that race, but he sounds like he broke a right rear lower trailing arm on his car, leading kind of handily. And Unziker, what did he come from 12th? Didn't he come from 6th row to win that deal? So good run for the El Paso Express. 20. Go ahead, Bert. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was, but now I forgot what. Well, Unziker won that race. Did you listen to his interview after the race?
I did not.
He said he hasn't been running very good this year, and he said that there was a miscommunication between him and Mars Racing. So, and then he said, so I've talked to Jimmy, and I finally got the stuff in that I got. So I'm not exactly sure what that miscommunication was, but I'm assuming it pertained to setups.
Interesting. No, I did not know. Well, they got it right now. He looked pretty darn good, so they got it right. And he is your reigning champ of the Mars series, off to a good start, looking like he might have a shot to repeat. So 2024 Pick'ems brought to you by our editor, our friend of the show, Brandon at elevate-visual.com. So they do a lot of drone work. He does a lot of video editing. He's got all kinds of stuff going on, but check them out on Facebook and check out the work that they do. If you're down in kind of the Alexandria area, if you're in real estate and you want a guy with a drone to come in and take video and pictures, he does a lot of that stuff for real estate, but he does a lot of great stuff. So check him out at elevate-visual.com. So last week, we had a bunch of rainouts, probably going to this week too, just is what it is. But we had I shouldn't say us because it wasn't me, but 3. So Big Bad Brad, right? We got Worker Beat Kent. We got Good Jeff. They were all +4. Man Bun Dan, co-host of our sister station, the Dirt Podcast, he was +3. Changa, Curtis, Coach, and Dan all +2. Me and Mike, 71A and Mike +1, and Bert. This must be a misprint because you wouldn't have 0. There's no way. I mean, big old Google. I thought I had a shitty week. Evidently, you suck at this as bad as me. Not quite as bad because you're ahead of me. Here's the points right now. Curtis, our reigning champ at 90. Changa, nipping at his heels, 85. You going to catch him here? What are we doing? Why are you waiting? Why are you letting a Packer beat you? What's going on? You coming for him or what?
Well, there's no doubt in my mind I'm trying to win. I mean, that's kind of the deal. I mean, I do intend to win. I mean, you guys I'm new to this, so you got me at a disadvantage at the beginning of the year, picking a bunch of stuff I've never even seen before in my life, and I had to weather that storm, and now we should be on our move to the front.
Clearly not at a disadvantage because I suck at making picks. This is what it is. Brad is at 80, Coach is at 72, Dan at 71, Bert at 70. I'm at 68 right now. I'm in seventh out of us. Worker B at 67, Man Bun Dan at 57, Good Jeff at 55, 6 points ahead of Mike, the cellar dweller. Upcoming events brought to you by our friends over at Daytona 1 Performance Lubricants. So Buck with Daytona 1, he's the founder of this company. He's in the NASA Hall of Fame. Yes, aerospace, NASA, in the Hall of Fame for specifically lubricants. So that means he's really smart and knows a lot about the industry. His passion is making stuff last longer, right? More efficient, make it work better. That's what the proper lubricants do. He's got a lot of different stuff. Check out Daytona 1 Performance Lubricants. Check them out online. Check them out on Facebook. Look at all the different products. It's not just the tire treatment stuff that we talk about, although that's a great product, especially if you're a budget racer that doesn't want to put new tires on every single week. That might be a solution to your problem to keep money in your pocket. But check those products out. Call Chad, the regional rep. His number 507-828-3536, and learn about all the great products at Daytona 1 Performance Lubricants. So, guys, I'm going to name off the shows that we're picking. There's already been some that have been axed, right? We were going to pick the Gondik Claw Speedway opener. That has been canceled. We were going to pick 3 nights at Mississippi Thunder. One of them got axed already. So here's what we're going to pick. And Bert, we'll start with you. We'll go to Changa. We'll go to me. And just say who you guys picked. The World of Outlaw late models heading down to Fountain City, Wisconsin. Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Great job they've done. All new racing surface down there. The place looks immaculate. Excited to see them in action. They were going to race Thursday, Friday, Saturday, $7,000, 35 grand. They axed one night. Now each night, Friday and Saturday, are both 25,000 to win. Bert, your picks for the World of Outlaw late models at Mississippi Thunder.
Pierce times 2.
Pierce times 2. Changa, what do you got?
I had to go change the shirt. Right now, I'm repping Bobby Pierce, so we're going Pierce times 2.
Smooth applicator there for Changa. I'm repping Bobby Pierce too. But I'm throwing a curveball. The Thrill from Mooresville, Nick Hoffman times 2. Gonna shake her up just a little bit. Either I'm gonna lose more ground on everybody, or I'm gonna upset the apple cart here. Lucas Oil Dirt Late Model action. They got a pair of races this weekend, Friday night at Ponderosa, and Saturday, the Ralph Latham Memorial at Florence. Bert.
Superman on Friday night and RTJ on Saturday night.
Changa.
So I don't remember which order I had this in now because it's on my phone and I can't look at it, but I believe I had Marlar and RTJ.
Well, I'll go with the flat bill hat here and the little smirk, right? I'm gonna go RTJ times 2. He's just too tough to tame right now. That thing's pretty bolted. World of Outlaw Sprint Cars, 3 events this week. Wednesday, which we're doing the show on Tuesday. You probably have already seen this. The race will probably have already happened by the time this comes out. But Wednesday, the debut of Brandon Shepard at Jacksonville. Friday and Saturday at Eldora. Bert. Oh, there he is. Okay.
We're doing a sprint, right? Yeah.
Yeah, World of Outlaw sprints.
Wednesday, I'm taking gravel. Friday, I'm taking Hodden's Child. And Saturday, I'm taking gravel.
Changa?
I went gravel all 3 nights.
So I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. The North Pole Nightmare. Bill Baylog at Jacksonville. And then I did David Sand and Gravel at Eldora both nights. Hunt the front late model action Friday down at Ultimate Motorsports Park and Saturday at Lancaster Speedway. Bert.
Overton times 2.
Okay, Cody Overton for you. All right. No, not Cody.
Not Cody.
All right. Kanga?
I went Brandon Overton times 2.
Yeah. Now, there's a reason that I never win at this. Because common sense would say you pick Brandon Overton or maybe Dale McDowell if he's going to be there. Well, as many of you would attribute to, I don't have that, and I kind of went a little something different here. At Ultimate, I'm going with kind of a local regional guy down there, the boss, Ross Bales. On Saturday, I'm going with the local guy, hometown hero. This guy's won a lot of races at Lancaster, and I've watched him this year. He showed some signs of speed. Keep an eye on Ben Watkins on Saturday night. That could be either really good or really bad, but we're going to find out. High Limit Racing 410 sprint car action Wednesday at 81 Speedway, Friday, Saturday at Lakeside. Bert?
Sweet Courtney.
Sweet Courtney. Changa?
I went Rico Sweet.
And I went Sunshine Tyler Courtney for the first 2 nights, and I went Brad Sweet for the final night. And the USMTS Modified Series going to head down just north of Waco, Texas to the Heart O Texas Speedway Friday and Saturday night. Bert?
Tim times 2.
Attaboy. I knew you're a Minnesota boy cheering on our Minnesota guy. Attaboy. Bert, come on. All right. Good job. All right, Changa, who do you got?
I went Tim times 2.
Tim times 2 for me as well. Let's go, Jake Tim. Get her done down there, buddy. All right, 3 bold predictions. Every week, we make 3 bold, and sometimes Bert picks, so they're not so bold. And we make 3 laps around the racetrack. And racing related, they either did or did not happen. Keep track of our stats here and have a little fun with it. So off the board this past weekend, we had a few come off the board. So Bert had one come off the board. RTJ going to go winless in the Northeast. Yeah, that was pretty close. No, that did not happen. He won both. Good Jeff. He had 3 come off the board as well. He said both rescheduled events. The rescheduled Fall Jamboree and the rescheduled Dwayne Mader Memorial. Deer Creek and Red Cedar Speedway would both rain out, and they did. Incidentally, they have a rain date again. I think it's be the 5th time that the 2023 Mader Memorial is being rescheduled. You know when it's rescheduled for? The same night as the XR Super Series late model race at Ogilvie.
Oh, no.
Now, in Menominee's defense, they scheduled, it was on the schedule first. They had it on there. But with that said, rest assured, they're talking about it. They're looking for an alternate because they don't want to run against Ogilvie. They have no interest in doing that. But when that was brought to my attention, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Another one that came off the board for Good Jeff. He said Brandon Davis is going to beat Jake Tim at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Jake Tim got 9th. Brandon Davis got 7th. That's a correct prediction there. 2 in a row. Then he got a 3rd one here. Bobby Pierce would not sweep the weekend in the world of outlaw late models. We got that one correct. Didn't even race. Just kidding. That one, we're going to X that one off because there's no race. It don't count. He tried to sneak one by me. He goes, he did sweep. I'm like, well, that's true. But I think you got to actually race for that to count. I had one come off the board. We talked about that. Coach, I think, screwing me over on that one. I think something seems right. Something seems off there. I had a top 5 for Bloomquist at Smoky Mountain. Started 4th off the track right away. I think that the fix was in. Coach Krause had 3 come off the board. Greg Satterley would have a better average finish than Hudson O'Neill. So Hudson O'Neill had a 14th and a 19th. So clearly, Satterley up in PA is probably going to have a better average. Well, the first night he didn't make the show, and the second night he got 20th. So, no, that did not happen. Kind of a bad beat a little bit. He also said that 50% of the podium finishes at the Lucas Oil races would be non-Lucas Oil drivers, and that was not the case. And he said, no podiums for RTJ. Close. Close, but no cigar. No, not close. Tonga, you had one come off the board. You said RTJ would podium all nights up in the Northeast. Nice bunt there, buddy. Little tap in, sitting in the crease there, right? Shot, save, rebound, goal. Good job. Our standings. So we keep track of overall correct predictions and then correct percentage, right? So leading the way in the correct percentage is Bert tied with Good Jeff. You're both at 9. Coach Kraus at 7, and then me and the Peanut Gallery at 6. Again, I suck at this. It just is what it is. Percentage-wise, the Peanut Gallery, they're leading the way at 27.3, so hats off to the listeners. Good Jeff in 2nd. Bert, you got a slight edge on me. I'm in 4th. Coach Kraus is rounding up the tail. Coach Kraus swings for the fences, and probably not the way you play the game in this one. So we're going to make 3 laps around the track. I do have Coach Kraus's. He's not with us here today, so I have his prediction. So we're going to go Bert, Changa, and then I got Kenny for the Peanut Gallery. I got Good Jeff, Coach Kraus, and I got myself. So Bert, your first prediction. What do you got?
Before I make my pick, did I get credit 2 weeks ago when
Nope.
Beaver Dam had 3 times as many cars as Shawano?
What is 3 times 0?
0. So Beaver Dam had more than 0.
3 times. You said 3 times as many. So 3 times. If they would have had 1, 3 times you would have. But 3 times 0. So they technically 3 times as many as 0. They had the same amount. They had 0 because you went 3 times. So being that race did not happen, we took mine off the board and yours off. Or Jeff made the executive decision to take them off. So yeah, the race actually had to happen for it to count. All right, Bert, what do you got?
All right. World of Outlaw action at MTS. Well, actually, just racing action at MTS. Bobby Pierce will have at least 3 feature victories this weekend.
Wow. So for those of you that don't know, the Smooth Operator going to be running an MB Customs Modified that he's going to be running in that $100,000 to win the big deal. He's going to be racing double duty. He's going to run that mod here this weekend at Mississippi Thunder. So Bert's saying he's going to win at least 3. 2 features in the mod, 2 features in the late model. So we'll see what the Smooth Operator has up his sleeve. Changa.
Boy, I was going to do a Bobby Pierce one. I don't know if I can be that bold, but I'm going to give her a try. I'm going to go. I'll go Bobby Pierce in the late model, 2 podium, or I'm not going to say 2 podium. He podiums every night that they race, and I'm going to say Bobby Pierce in the mod, 0 top 10s.
Okay, so a little parlay action there. So podium both nights in the late model, or podium every night they race, and no top 10s in the modified this weekend. Okay. All right, so Kenny has his first one here. In all the races, in what he talks about in all the races that we picked, the ones that we're doing in our pick'ems, in all of those races, no driver will double up. So World of Outlaw late models, whoever Pierce is not going to double up. So no driver in the races that we pick will win multiple features in that division.
Interesting.
Good Jeff. Buggy Bishop. Top 12 in the World of Outlaw sprint car debut at Jacksonville Wednesday night.
Wow.
A main, not B main, not C main, not F main, right? But he knows that place. He's a hustler. He's a gasser. It'd be interesting to see. It's gonna be fun to watch him get after it there. So Buggy Bishop, top 12 in World of Outlaw sprint car action. Coach Kraus, his first one, RTJ weekend sweep. specifically overall fast time, heat win, feature win, both nights for RTJ. Not just the feature, got a overall fast time, heat win, feature win, both nights for RTJ. My first one, we'll get to the big deal mod show. I'm going to kind of lay one out there again. The Voodoo Child, Scott Bloomquist, will make the feature at the big deal mod race at the end of May. Bert.
Are there provisionals?
I don't think he'd get one if there was, but I don't think they do have provisional for that. Maybe he wouldn't call. I don't think it'd go to him.
Okay. I will go with what I said earlier in the show, that the 4 drivers in Lucas that will be racing for the championship will be RTJ, Marlar, Moran, and Superman.
Okay. RTJ, Marlar, Moran, Superman. Okay. Changa.
Well, I'm going to do a David Gravel one. I'm going to say he gets at least 1 win and podiums all the other nights that he races this week.
So David Gravel on the podium all the nights this weekend that he races this week, with at least one of them being in victory lane. Okay. All right. Kenny's second one, of all the races that we're picking, right, in our pick'ems contest, Mother Nature is going to take down at least 2 of the races that we're picking. That's not counting the ones that we were talking about picking that already canceled. Of the ones that we're picking, at least 2 of them races are going to fall to rain. Good Jeff going to go down a little USMTS action down at the Hardo, Texas Speedway, just north of Waco, Texas. Jake O'Neill and the Rocket Man, Rodney Sanders, are going to be 1, 2, either direction, either person, first or second, but they're going to finish 1, 2, both nights in Texas. Coach Kraus, Donnie Schatz on the podium all 3 nights of World of Outlaw sprint car action this week. My second one, I'm going to go high limit sprint car action. Corey Day and Sunshine Tyler Courtney will combine to post better average finishes than Rico Abreu and Brad Sweet. So Corey Day, Tyler Courtney, better average finishes than Rico and Brad Sweet. All right, white flags out. 3rd and final lap around the track. Bert, what do you got?
All right, my last one will be Lucas Oil at Florence. Josh Rice, who owns that place, will finish outside of the top 5 in the feature.
You're kind of drinking some haterade there, Bert. He's kind of let us down the last few times that we picked him, so you're kind of firing some shots across the bow. Josh Rice has been fun to watch at Florence. No top 5 here this week for this. No top 5 at the Ralph Latham Memorial for Josh Rice. Changa, 3rd and final prediction.
I think I'm going to go high limits as well. I'm going to go Sweet with at least 1 win and leaves with the point lead after the weekend.
Sweet, at least 1 win and the new point leader. Okay. All right, Kenny's 3rd and final prediction. Of all the races that we're picking, this might be kind of a bunt, but we'll give it to him. 50% of the races that we're picking will be won from the 10th or better starting position. 10th or better. That's kind of a bunt. I mean, that's pretty weak there, Kenny. But that's why they're leading the percentage right there. All right. Good Jeff. Good Jeff here. You got to read this. He goes, we've been talking a lot about old guys on the show, right? We've been talking about Kenny Schrader winning races, Scott Bloomquist going to win races, Billy Moyer winning races. Kind of an old guy deal. So his prediction is this. Even though he's old, decrepit, blind, wasn't that good to begin with, this driver will have more wins than Scott Bloomquist in 2024.
Kraus.
Coach Kraus. Yep. So Coach Kraus, the old decrepit, saggy balls, sleeping, right? 5-year plan. That guy, right? Hope he don't die. I'm not sure what he's got going on. He's going to have more wins than Scott Bloomquist in 2024. All right. Speaking of Coach Kraus, his third and final, Corey Day will have at least one win and will be on the podium all 3 nights in high limit racing action this weekend. And I am going to take, so I did one this weekend for high limit. I did Bloomquist at Mississippi Thunder. Oh boy, I'm gonna lay another one out there. I'm gonna have a lot come off the board here in a little while. Wissota Structural Buildings Wissota Late Model Challenge Series, not this weekend, but next weekend, is getting underway with a triple header. Tyler Peterson is going to be the Challenge Series champion in 2024. And he will have the most Challenge Series wins in 2024, but he will not be the highest money earner of that series, not counting point fund, race earnings. So Tyler Peterson will be the champion. He'll have the most wins, but he will not win the most money in races, not point fund, in races in the Challenge Series. Because somebody's going to win 20 grand at Ashland. And that's going to upset the apple cart on that one. Little kind of throwing out there. So with that said, that's 222 in the books. Next week, this guy right here, the one and only Billiam, going to be joining us, talking a little racing action, talking a little bit of some stuff going on in the Wissota teching world. You're not going to want to miss that one. Make sure to tell everybody that he's going to be on the show. It's going to be good. I think he's a little reluctant to come on, but it's going to be kind of fun to have him on nonetheless. So anything in closing, guys, before we jump off here, finish up 222.
Well, you had mentioned Kenny Schrader a little while ago. I don't think I mentioned this on the show, but he is going to be racing at Channel Speedway on June 8th, which is Hall of Fame night, which is the same night that my grandpa gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. So that's going to be pretty cool. Nice.
You have to keep us posted on that one. That'll be pretty fun. June 8th. So June 8th, Channel Speedway Hall of Fame night. And what was your grandpa's name again?
Paul Lehman.
Oh, there we go. Paul Lehman going to be in the Hall of Fame, so that'll be pretty cool. That'll be a good night for you there. It'll be kind of cool to see one of them old guys, Kenny Schrader, park it in Victory Lane that night. You should get a hold of Kenny Schrader, see if he wants to put a little tribute body on or something for him. That'd be kind of cool, right? All right, so Gondikla Speedway canceled. Changa, you kind of called that one. Proctor Speedway still set to open on Sunday, another home track opener. Don't know if it's going to happen. Lots of Wissota action. Race fans, get out, support your local racetracks. They need all the fans in the stands they can get. And of course, if you can't get there in person, jump on to Dirt Race Central and catch all the Wissota action. There's a lot of other streaming platforms out there as well. So as always, I'm Ryan. That is Bert. That is Changa. Thanks for tuning in to the One to Go Show.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please leave a review and subscribe. It is Puka. And Goat Sports has another show out there by podcast, Facebook, and YouTube. It's the Tea with Miss McGill show. Covers hockey, high school hockey in northern Minnesota. So if you're into hockey, you can find us on podcast under Tea with Miss McGill. You can find us on YouTube or Facebook, Goat Sports Media LLC. Yours truly and Coach Reed Larson. We break it down every week. We also do some interesting interviews. We'd love to have you. So tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we'll catch you next week.